Imagine knowing you have, like, exactly 12 hours left to live, and the people who have devoted their entire lives to following you are just on the verge of total, unadulterated panic.
Oh, absolute chaos.
Right. I mean, what are your final words to them? How do you anchor them when, everything they thought they knew is about to collapse?
It's a huge question.
It really is. So welcome, everyone, to the deep dive, and may a truly divine blessing be upon your day today and upon your entire week ahead.
Yes, absolutely.
Today, we are taking on a mission that is incredibly rich. We're examining some detailed notes from a pair of highly respected Portuguese study Bibles, specifically the Holman and NWA editions.
Right, really solid resources.
Yeah, and we're focusing entirely on chapter 14 of the Gospel of John. Plus, alongside that, we are analyzing this really fascinating theological insert by Robert M. Bowman Jr.
Which adds a whole other layer to it.
It totally does. Our goal here is to unpack one of the most famous, comforting, and honestly, intellectually provocative texts in all of ancient religious literature.
I mean, it's basically a masterclass in crisis management, but on a cosmic scale.
Cosmic scale, I like that.
Right, because to truly grasp what is happening in this text, you have to, place yourself inside the pressure cooker of that specific moment.
Set the scene for us.
Okay, so we are in the upper room in Jerusalem. It is the night before the crucifixion. And Jesus has just dropped this massive destabilizing bombshell on his core group of followers.
The ultimate bad news.
Exactly. He's announced that he is leaving them, and where he is going, well, they cannot follow.
Right. And from a purely human perspective, that just sounds disastrous.
Oh, completely.
I mean, think about it. These individuals have given up their livelihoods, their social standing, their safety to follow him.
Everything. They gave up everything.
Yeah. And now he's essentially saying, my time is up, you're staying behind. It's like a beloved CEO telling their board that the company is about to face a hostile takeover, they are leaving, but then casually adding, hey, don't let your hearts be troubled.
How does anyone process that?
Exactly. You would expect the next sentence to be, I don't know, a detailed tactical plan for how to hide from the authorities.
Yeah, grab your go bags.
Right. But instead, Jesus looks at these terrified men and says, do not let your hearts be troubled. It almost sounds dismissive or completely out of touch with reality if you don't understand the mechanism of what he promises next.
Well, that tension is exactly what drives the entire chapter. Jesus isn't offering them a tactical retreat, He is offering a metaphysical reality.
Break it down.
So to explain why they shouldn't panic, he pivots immediately to explaining the nature of where he is going. He tells them that in his Father's house, there are many rooms, and he's going to prepare a place for them.
Which brings up the study Bibles, because they really emphasize the specific Portuguese translation used here, the word moradas.
Yes.
And it's a word that completely shifts the mental image of what happens after death, doesn't it?
It really does. The Greek word underlying the text and the Portuguese moradas carries a very specific weight. It does not imply a temporary shelter or a passing hotel room.
Or some abstract cloudy void.
Exactly. No clouds and harps here. A morada is a dwelling place. It's a permanent residence where one abides and puts down roots.
Wow.
So the text is presenting the afterlife heaven as a meticulously prepared physical and spiritual home. The psychological comfort there is just profound.
He's saying, I'm expecting you.
Right. He's telling them their arrival in this space is anticipated and there is ample permanent room for them.
But of course, the disciples are entirely stuck on the immediate logistical reality.
Naturally.
Because they're not theologians yet, right? They are fishermen, zealots, and tax collectors facing an imminent threat. So Thomas steps in, and you just have to appreciate Thomas because he is ruthlessly pragmatic.
He really is. He's the realist in the room.
Yeah. He essentially raises his hand and says, look, we do not know where you are going, so how can we possibly know the way?
It's the most rational question you could ask.
I'd be asking the exact same thing. And Jesus' response to that pragmatism is arguably the most famous declaration in the text. He says, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
And that single sentence is an explosive paradigm shift, especially for a first-century Jewish audience.
Oh, so?
Well, the Portuguese study notes provide some really crucial historical context here. This is a claim of absolute exclusive access. To understand how shocking this would be, you have to think about the architecture of ancient religious worship.
Okay, like the temple.
Exactly. In the Old Testament tabernacle and later the temple, you had a series of increasingly restrictive zones, and it culminated in the Holy of Holies, which was the literal dwelling place of God's
And
presence.
separating that space was the veil.
Yes, and this wasn't some sheer decorative curtain. Historical texts describe it as incredibly thick and heavy.
Like a literal wall.
Right, it was a physical blockade representing a metaphysical truth. Humanity is separated from the divine. And the mechanism of that religion dictated that only the high priest from the exclusive lineage of Aaron could bypass that veil. And only once a year, carrying a blood sacrifice. It was this intimidating, barrier-heavy system.
So when Jesus says, I am the way, no one comes to the Father except through me.
He is claiming to completely dismantle and replace that entire system. He is the new veil. He is the new high priest. He is the sole bridge.
But if Jesus is the exclusive bridge, the only way, that immediately creates a massive philosophical problem for anyone who isn't standing in that room.
It certainly does.
I mean, what about the rest of the world? And this is where Robert Bowman addresses that exact friction in his theological insert. Is Jesus the only way?
Right, Bowman dives right into that.
Because Bowman is making an absolute claim here based on the text. But how does his framework account for the obvious ethical loophole? Like, what about the people who lived halfway across the globe and never even had the opportunity to hear this message?
It is the ultimate question of divine justice. I mean, theologians have debated it for centuries, but Bowman approaches this with a very specific, airtight theological logic based on the source text. His model asserts that the baseline human condition is not like a state of neutral innocence that gets penalized over a technicality.
Like failing a pop quiz about Jesus.
Exactly. God isn't up there grading a pop quiz. Bowman's premise, drawing from broader biblical theology, is that human nature inherently falls short of divine perfection. Everyone has morally failed.
Okay.
Therefore, Bowman argues that people are ultimately lost due to their own actions and moral choices, not simply because they lacked historical information about Jesus.
So the condemnation isn't a penalty for missing data. It's just the natural consequence of human action. And God judges based on how people respond to whatever light or knowledge they do have.
Precisely. And Bowman's framework includes clear biblical exceptions that demonstrate this.
Oh, really? Like who?
Well, he points to Old Testament figures like Abraham or Moses. They lived thousands of years before the incarnation.
Right, they never heard the name Jesus.
Exactly. Yet Bowman explains they are saved because they trusted in God's mercy based on what had been revealed to them at their specific point in history.
That makes sense.
He also explicitly highlights exceptions for infants or individuals with severely impaired mental capacities, those who literally do not possess the cognitive ability to discern right from wrong. He argues that the nature of God's justice does not condemn those souls.
But for those who do possess that capacity, Bowman suggests this exclusivity creates an undeniable mandate.
It really does.
Because if this is the only bridge, then holding on to that information is unacceptable. It creates this urgent theological necessity to share the message globally.
Exactly. It shifts the burden from a philosophical debate about fairness to an act of responsibility for the believer.
Yeah, that's a heavy responsibility. But, going back to the upper room, if Jesus is offering this exclusive, unseen bridge, that creates an immediate tension in the room.
Oh, for sure.
Because humans are wired to want proof, especially when facing death. And that psychological need just comes bursting out through Philip.
Poor Philip.
I know. He shifts the conversation away from this future heavenly Marada and demands immediate tangible evidence. He says, Lord, show us the Father, and that is enough for us.
It's a deeply human request. I mean, Philip wants an anchor for his anxiety. He wants to see the unseen.
Who wouldn't?
Right. But the study notes highlight why this request is actually incredibly scandalous.
Oh.
Yeah, in Exodus 33, Moses essentially asks God for the exact same thing. Moses says, please show me your glory. And God responds that no human can see his face and live.
Right. It's too much for a human to handle.
Exactly. Moses is only allowed to see a shielded passing glimpse of God's back. So for a first-century Jew, asking to see the Father is asking for a lethal dose of divine reality.
Wow. And yet Jesus replies, whoever has seen me has seen the Father.
Yeah.
He isn't striking Philip down for blasphemy. He's making this unshielded claim to divinity.
He is. He is telling them that the complete unshielded manifestation of Yahweh, the same God who thundered on Mount Sinai, is standing right in front of them about to wash their feet.
That is just Staggering.
It is. And the notes emphasize this as a foundational declaration of the Trinity. Jesus is distinct in person, yet he perfectly, entirely reveals the essence, authority, and love of the Father.
But then he follows that staggering claim with a promise that honestly challenges logic.
Oh, the greater works.
Yes, he looks at these terrified, uneducated fishermen and says that whoever believes in him will do greater works than he did. I mean, I have to pause here.
It's a bold claim.
Jesus walked on water. He multiplied a few fish to feed thousands of people. He literally called a dead man out of a tomb. How does an ordinary listener or a disciple in that room do something greater than raising the dead?
Are we talking about better magic tricks?
Exactly. Are we expecting them to shoot lasers out of their eyes?
Well, it is a baffling statement if you only look at it through the lens of raw power. But the linguistic notes clarify the mechanism behind this promise by analyzing the original Greek word used,
Which is
meizona, which translates to greater. The scholars point out that greater does not mean more miraculous, more supernatural, or more spectacular. It means greater in scope.
okay, so it's an issue of scale. Like Jesus was a localized spark, but they are going to become a global wildfire.
That is a perfect way to conceptualize it. Think about the physical limitations of Jesus's earthly ministry.
Very limited.
Yeah, incredibly localized. He walked on foot around a very specific, politically insignificant region of the Middle East for about 3 years.
Right.
He reached a relatively small, concentrated number of people. But because he is going to the Father, the mechanism of his ministry is about to change. The notes point to the day of Pentecost as the catalyst.
The passing of the baton.
Exactly. From there, ordinary people are empowered to take this message across oceans. They will translate it into thousands of languages, build hospitals, reform legal systems, and spark worldwide cultural and spiritual transformation that spans millennia.
Wow.
That sheer volume, that historical reach, that is a greater work.
That makes total sense. He's dismantling a localized, building-based religion and turning it into a person-based, mobile reality.
A mobile reality. I like that.
Yeah. But to achieve that massive global scope, these guys clearly cannot be left alone. I mean, they're currently hiding in a room, paralyzed by the fear of being abandoned, which leads to Jesus providing the ultimate solution for their anxiety.
And this introduces the mechanism that makes the greater works possible, the promise of the Holy Spirit.
Let's get into that.
So the notes translate the term used here as counselor or comforter. The Greek word is the paraclete. Now, what is vital in the text is the specific language Jesus uses. He refers to the Spirit as another counselor, and the Greek implies another of the exact same kind.
So the Spirit isn't a lesser substitute or some vague angelic force. It is of the exact same essence as Jesus.
Correct. It is sent to be his ongoing, continuous presence. It is how he fulfills the deeply emotional promise he makes just a few verses later. I will not leave you as orphans, I will come to you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It really is.
Yeah.
He addresses their core psychological terror abandonment by promising an unbroken internal connection.
But this brings up another character in the room, and another very rational piece of pushback.
There's always one.
Always. This time it's Judas, not Judas Iscariot, the betrayer, but the other Judas, likely Jude, the son of James. He raises his hand and asks, Lord, why do you intend to show yourself to us and not to the world?
A very fair question.
Super fair. If you're kicking off a global movement, why keep the supreme leader hidden from the masses?
And Jesus' answer to Jude's question contains one of the most brilliant, satisfying linguistic connections in the entire chapter.
I love this part.
It fundamentally alters how we understand the Christian experience. Jesus answers that if anyone loves him and keeps his word, he and the Father will come to them and make their home with them.
And if we look at the Portuguese translation of that verse, verse 23, the word the translators use for home is morada.
Yes.
It is the exact same word Jesus used back in verse 2.
It completely flips the architectural model we discussed earlier. In verse 2, Jesus says he is going away to prepare a morada, an external dwelling place for us in heaven.
Right.
But in verse 23, he says that through the Paraclete, the Spirit, God is going to come and make his morada inside the human heart in the present moment.
That is an incredible synthesis. It's a reciprocal mutual dwelling. You don't have to wait until your physical body dies to experience the presence of the Father.
Exactly.
The exclusivity we talked about earlier, the only way, is suddenly balanced by this radical, intimate inclusivity. God isn't distant behind a heavy temple veil. God takes up permanent residence within the individual.
It means the believer actually becomes the temple. And because of this internal marada, Jesus is finally able to give them a parting gift that directly neutralizes the panic from the beginning of the chapter.
The ultimate parting gift.
Right. He says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives."
And the study notes dive really deep into the contrast here. When the world offers peace, it usually implies a temporary cessation of hostilities.
Just a pause in the fighting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about the Roman Empire at the time. They had the Pax Romana, the peace of Rome. But how is that peace achieved?
Through the brutal, absolute crushing of all opposition.
Right, it was peace through superior violence, a fragile enforced truce.
But the peace Jesus offers is rooted in the ancient Hebrew concept of shalom. And shalom is not merely the absence of conflict.
It's so much more.
It implies a deep, profound wholeness. It means everything being exactly as it should be, structurally sound, in a right relationship with God. Jesus is offering them an internal reality of complete wholeness that exists completely independently of external circumstances.
It's like the eye of a hurricane. Total systemic violence and chaos swirling on the outside, but structurally sound and completely still on the inside.
What a great image.
They are about to face arrests, beatings, and executions, yet he is promising them this internal shalom. But as we read through the end of the chapter, I do want to address a verse that often causes some theological whiplash.
Oh, I had the one.
Yeah, just after promising this peace, Jesus says, "The Father is greater than I." Now, earlier we established that anyone who has seen me has seen the Father, implying absolute equality. How do the study notes reconcile this apparent contradiction?
It's a vital question, and the notes handle it by distinguishing between essence and role.
Okay, essence versus role.
Yes. When Jesus says the Father is greater than I, he is not talking about his intrinsic essence, his divine nature, or his value. He's referring to his temporary functional role and his voluntary submission during his earthly incarnation.
So if we look at like a military or diplomatic structure, a general and a lieutenant might have equal worth as human beings, but within the structure of the mission, one holds greater functional authority.
That is the exact mechanism at play. In the ancient world of emissaries, the sender always possesses greater functional authority than the one being sent.
Ah, I see.
Jesus has temporarily submitted himself to the mission given by the Father. It is a hierarchy of role for the purpose of salvation, not a hierarchy of fundamental value.
And his absolute submission to that role becomes stunningly clear in the final verses. Jesus announces, "The prince of this world is coming."
Which is chilling.
It is. He's referring to Satan, or the impending forces of darkness and betrayal that are marshaling to arrest him. But the text adds a crucial legal clarification here.
Yes, Jesus explicitly states that the prince of this world has no legal claim, no hold, and no power over him.
Wow.
It is a massive statement of sovereignty. Jesus is not being conquered. His impending march to the cross is not a defeat by dark forces. It is a completely voluntary act of obedience to the Father, driven by love.
Which makes his final words in the chapter so profoundly cinematic.
They really are.
After delivering this cosmic theology, he simply says, "Rise, let us go from here." And they physically transition out of that upper room. They step out into the night, heading toward the Garden of Gethsemane, where the betrayal will unfold.
Knowing exactly what's coming.
Right. He walks out not as a victim caught in a trap, but as someone entirely in control, carrying that internal shalom.
It completely reframes the narrative of the Passion. The frantic terror of the disciples is met with the absolute, unshakable resolve of their teacher.
So think about your own life right now. Whether you approach this text as strict theology, as fascinating historical literature, or just as a philosophical framework, John 14 deals directly with universal human anxieties that haven't changed a bit in 2,000 years.
Not one bit.
The fear of our own mortality, the absolute dread of being left alone, of being orphaned by a cold universe, and the desperate need to find a way through a world that often feels incredibly chaotic, hostile, and unpredictable. When we stress about our jobs, the economy, or the news cycle, we're usually just craving a truce, a temporary pause in the chaos. But the text is offering something entirely different. It offers the profound concept that you do not need your external circumstances to be perfect to find an anchor. That shalom, that wholeness, is an internal marada.
And that leads to a final thought I want to leave you with, something to deeply consider as you go about your day.
Okay, let's hear it.
Towards the end of this text, Jesus states that the world cannot receive the Spirit of truth because it neither sees him nor knows him. The world relies entirely on physical sight and tangible proof.
Right.
It forces us to examine our own cultural conditioning. In our modern age, an age of hypervisibility, where everything must be documented on a screen, where we are bombarded by endless streams of quantifiable data, metrics, and video evidence, are we conditioning ourselves to only trust what we can physically see with our eyes?
That's a great question.
And by constantly demanding that external physical proof, are we blinding ourselves to the deeper truths and that profound internal peace that these ancient texts insist can only be known intimately, quietly, and internally?
It is a powerful framework to carry with you this week as you navigate your own chaos. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey today.
Yeah.
Goodbye, and God blesses all of you listening.